Welcome to Tex Maguire and the Christmas Ride. Written, illustrated, and narrated by yours truly, Kenneth Moore. Now gather round, children, and you will hear the Christmas ride without reindeer. What? Christmas night without reindeer sounds mighty strange, as I think you'll hear. But nevertheless it happened that way, without Santa Claus or even his sleigh. So sit real still, and you'll hear me say how Tex Maguire came to save the day. Once upon a time, one cold and blustery winter, there sat a lone cowboy named Tex Maguire, with his horse, Ole Bluebonnet, and his dog, Midnight. Now, Tex wasn't anything special, just a long drink of water, riding the range and doing what comes naturally. But what came naturally for most folks just always seemed to be too much too quick for the likes of Tex. You see, Tex never had a bone in his body that was ever in a hurry, while even the way Tex spoke was slower than most. But old Bluebonnet and Midnight never seemed to mind much, 'cause Tex never really had that much to say except, "Howdy," or "Have a nice day." Fact is, for as long as old Bluebonnet had been Tex's horse and Midnight his dog, these two sidekicks had never really heard Tex say much at all. But that didn't matter, or at least they never said so. "Doesn't bother me." "Me neither." They all loved one another and enjoyed each other's company out on the range. Cowboying was all Tex had ever known, and this Christmas, like so many Christmases in the past, would be spent quietly and alone, except of course for old Bluebonnet and Midnight. As the three companions snuggled closer to the fire that cold December night, no one, not even Santa Claus himself, could have ever believed that this Christmas would be like no other Christmas ever. Now, several days before, somewhere thousands of miles to the north, Santa and his elves were busy. You'd think that anybody with a whole year to get ready for Christmas would have every doll dressed and every wheel in place. But no, not Santa. "Oh, why didn't I get this done in August? No. That doll gets the pink dress with polka dots, and those wheels fit on this truck, not that Lamborghini." Christmas Day was approaching, and with every passing day the temperature was dropping lower and lower. 15 below zero, 25 below zero. It was so cold that even Santa's auntie was freezing. You know, antifreeze? Now, everybody knows that when things start to go bad, everything seems to go wrong, and Santa was no exception. The faster he went, the more behind her he got, until finally, achoo! Santa caught a cold just to make matters worse. "I told you not to go outside without your jacket on. And just look at you running around here in your stocking feet trying to catch pneumonia," fussed Mrs. Claus. But, like all good mothers, after she fussed at Santa, she tucked him into bed and gave him lots of chicken soup and even rubbed Vicks on Santa's chest to help him breathe easier. But Santa's nose kept getting redder and redder. How red was it? It was so red and bright that the elves started wearing sunglasses whenever Santa came around. Uh-oh, guys, here he comes. In fact, Rudolph, with his nose so bright, felt unneeded that Christmas night. For try and try with all his might, his ruby nose just could not compete. Rudolph became so upset that he went into hiding, and as Christmas Eve approached, he was nowhere to be found. Oh dear, first this cold and now no Rudolph," moaned Santa. "Santa, how will you ever be able to make your rounds this Christmas?" exclaimed Mrs. Claus. "I'm afraid Christmas will have to be canceled this year," she said. "Impossible, Mama. The children are waiting, and so many have been extra specially good this year. I simply cannot disappoint them," replied Santa. "Cold or no cold, Rudolph or no Rudolph, there will be Christmas, or my name is not achoo, Santa Claus." There was no stopping Santa now, and Mrs. Claus knew it. Cold or no cold, Rudolph or no Rudolph, Christmas was on. Christmas Eve arrived right on time, same as it did every year, and somehow all the dolls got dressed and all the toys assembled. Mrs. Claus and the elves in their sunglasses packed Santa's sleigh and harnessed 8 tiny reindeer, but Rudolph was still nowhere to be found. Now, there's been a nasty rumor that's been going around about there not being any Santa Claus and the like. After all, who could ever do all those marvelous things that Santa does, like flying around the world in one night, stopping at every child's house, going up and down chimneys, making all those toys and then knowing who gets what? Well, there is only one possible answer for everything: magic. You probably already knew that, but what you may not have known is that Santa's magic comes from you. Every time you believe in Santa, the magic of believing is collected by elves. And every year, Santa takes that magic and stores it in his magic pouch, so he can do all of those unbelievable things again next year. Unfortunately, more and more children have been believing that ugly rumor about no Santa. And every year, there seems to be less and less magic. That's why moms and dads everywhere have to help Santa more and more each year. You see, Santa Claus can only exist when you believe in him. Santa Claus gathered his magic pouch from where he had placed it the year before and sighed quietly at how much lighter it was from years past. Nevertheless, it would have to be enough. Cold or no cold, Rudolph or no Rudolph, magic or no magic, Christmas was on. Mrs. Claus tucked him in tight, and then in the best jolly he could muster up, tried to jiggle out a ho, ho, ho. But because of his cold, it came out sounding more like oh, oh, oh. With a flick of his wrist and a gleam in his eye, the sleigh and 8 reindeer did steadily rise, and then in an instant he completed his trick, and except for the glow that was seen far from sight, Mrs. Claus knew this would be quite a night. Now, sick as he was that cold Christmas night, this was Santa's night, and he was not going to be denied. But try as he might, his cold just simply got worse, until finally, somewhere over Texas, it happened. Some folks say the magic pouch fell out during a fit of sneezing, but others claim Providence had a hand that Christmas night. Who knows? But whatever it was, it happened just right. For there on the ground, all snuggled and warm, slept the 3 buckaroos, all quiet and calm. When all of a sudden, from out of the night came the warm glow of Christmas and magic delights. And all 3 of them woke to the wonder of flight. What a sight! A horse, a cowboy, and a dog in midair. Why, you'd have looked twice or maybe just stared. But then all of a sudden, a curious thing. Why, Tex Maguire began to speak, and yes, even sing. He spoke of the moon and the stars all a-twitter. He talked of the flowers and how water glitters, of bright sunny days and fresh mountain streams, of mansions and empires he'd built in his dreams. He sang of his loves, the good and the bad, and hoped he'd not made too many sad. He yelled at the wars and the evil behind them, and cried at the wrongs in the world all around him. He talked, and he talked with so much to say that Ole Bluebonnet and Midnight were dumbfounded and amazed. I'm amazed, I'm dumbfounded. Before they all knew it, they were off in a flash, with the magic of Christmas wasting no time. And it wasn't long before they could make out what that red glow in the distance had been. Why, it was Santa and not Rudolph whose nose was aglow, and Santa was slumped over and not looking at all well. He lifted his head as best that he could and said in a whisper that could barely be heard, "Cold or no cold, Rudolph or no Rudolph, magic or no magic, Christmas has to go on." Well, Tex was no doctor, but he knew what to do. He gathered the toys and the other gifts too and securely fastened them to Ole Bluebonnet. Then with great care, Tex tucked Santa into the sleigh, and the reindeer knew Santa was through for this day. Then Tex stood up tall and with a voice like a bell yelled, "On, Dancer, on, Prancer, on, Donner and Blitzen, to the North Pole make haste and take care. Santa is sick and needs to be there." In a flash they were gone and clear out of sight. But then, from the north there came a bright light. A 747? No, this light was red. A UFO? I don't think so. Oh, what could it be but that beautiful sight of a reindeer whose nose is so shiny and bright? It was Rudolph, of course, to help Christmas night. Now, Rudolph had been thinking only of himself, something we all do from time to time. But as soon as he realized how much more Santa needed him this year than ever before, he came to his senses. That is when he discovered Santa had started Christmas without him. Blessed with flight, Rudolph was off like a light to find Santa and the magic of Christmas night. What Rudolph found, much to his surprise, was not 8 tiny reindeer and jolly St. Nick, but Tex McGWUYRE and his 2 sidekicks. Now, Tex was a Texian, pronounced Texian, clean through and through. But this job being Santa was something quite new. But with Rudolph here, he knew just what to do. He looked at his list. It had been counted twice. Santa had marked who had been naughty and nice. But the thing that really befuddled old Tex was the markings that said who got this and what was next. So it happened that way, and you might recall a Christmas pass you didn't get all. Maybe it didn't fit or wasn't just right. My guess is that was Texas night. But Tex was a Texian, clean through and through, and not knowing never stopped a Texian from doing his due. The Trojan horse must have been quite a sight, but ever there was a sight to behold. It was Tex and midnight and Ole Bluebonnet, I'm told. With Rudolph at lead and the North Star in sight, Christmas was on, and oh, what a night. First this house and that one, with so much to do, but Tex was a Texian, clean through and through. With such speed and such purpose, it seemed quite uncanny that this cowboy and crew knew just what to do. Tex finished up Texas and Milwaukee too. He made it to New York and even Kalamazoo. From West Coast to East Coast and all points between, Tex went so many places he'd never, ever seen. The magic of Christmas is awesome indeed. It can strain you and pain you till nothing seems right, until in the gray of dawn's early light, the thrill of the children makes it quite clear that the efforts of Santa make each Christmas dear. But the magic of Christmas ran out early that night. You may recall, there wasn't much to start with, and things didn't go right. But somewhere, somehow, that cold, blustery night, Christmas was finished, though everything might not have been right. Tex was a Texian, clean through and through. He didn't have magic, but he knew what to do, for a job that is started is never complete till the last I is dotted and the final lines meet. Tex had never been before in such a race, but being a Texian, he couldn't, no, wouldn't lose face. And so goes the story of that Christmas night, the one where a cowboy made everything right. Now, nobody's heard from Tex anymore. Some say he works up north at Santa's general store, or maybe he's roping and riding the range with Ole Bluebonnet Midnight. No one can say. But if you're ever in Texas and happen to see a tall, lanky Texan resting up against a tree, sitting quietly and solemn without much to say, you'll know in an instant that it's not good St. Nick. But who knows, it just might be Tex McGWUYRE catching a wink. And ever year since, on each Christmas night, if you open your ears and close your eyes tight, you can still hear Tex say as he rides out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and y'all have a good night."